on KBLA Talk 1580.
On Monday, October 9th, don't miss the KBLA Talk 1580 exclusive. The tape. 1 year later.
Y'all were coming for us.
Yeah, but Tavis, that's not in my heart. I wasn't coming for anyone like that. I apologize, but that was not me. That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete. That can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens on Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. The tape, 1 year later. We'll broadcast live an afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later. Are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape, 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580, Monday, October 9th, live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
First things first.
Things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. First. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing every single day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from the Most High, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and then let's go. Let's go. Yes, indeed, it is a Thursday, and we got a lot to talk about. If you're new to the program, this is how we do it. Hour 1, we look to the left coast, everything local, all things Cali. Hour 2, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest. That's most of the time. Today, we deviate just a little bit. Hour 3, I'm looking forward to the conversation with feminist, author, humorist, Caitlin Moran. It's got a new book. And among the topics, rebooting masculinity. So that should be quite an interesting conversation. Also, we'll be talking with Dr. Cindy Trim. But joining me this hour is a gang intervention specialist, founder and executive director of the DETOURS Mentoring Group, Reverend Ben Owens, a.k.a. Taco. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed. How you doing?
I'm great.
So, yeah, I guess we'll start with the basics. I always like to start with what's good, and Detours is one of those blessings on our community. So explain. I mean, you've been doing this for a minute now. I feel like I've been interviewing you for a long time about Detours. So talk to me about what your organization is and does.
Yeah, so first things first, I just want to say thank you and for your many years of commitment to the community and highlighting folks like myself and so many others that are out here. So thank you. Detours is a mentoring group. We get started about 20 years ago in the city of Gardena. in my neighborhood that I grew up in. And after many years of living a lifestyle that wasn't productive to my community, I had a change come about to where I wanted to do something different and still love my community. And I got together with some other folks from my neighborhood, and we created a nonprofit that would empower our community through lived experience and some of the choices that we have made, and how we can turn things around. And so I guess the euphemism of detours is taking a different route and turning your life around.
Right. The detour can be a detour into getting where you want to go. Sounds like.
Yes.
Um, right now we're in a time where we hear a lot about what's going on with young people inside the system of incarceration, specifically here in Southern California around the juvenile detention system with its apparently massive problems. And that's one of the things you do, right? Is you work inside that system.
Yes. We work with young people who have, made some bad choices and need some redirection. And part of those systems gives us access to going in there, kind of figuring out what the problem is. And generally, it's not a matter of a person choosing a life of crime. There's some other issues that's going on, within the home, and some family issues and environmental issues that typically lead them down the path where they end up involved with something, a crime or something of that nature that lands them in that place. But we try to work from the inside out. So, when they do get out, they do have programs and mentors and people that can connect them to, the resources that they need to get them on the right path.
I mean, in LA right now, it seems like we go through a probation director about every 2 months. We have had a couple of our juvenile halls classified as not suitable for housing kids, for housing anyone, which is a pretty, low bar. So that means they're pretty bad. And some folks think we just abolished the whole system. Where are you on that? I mean, I know this is an area of labor and a labor of love for you, but we are in a crisis with our youth detention.
Yes, we are. And I think abolish is kind of themish. It depends on what you talk about abolishing, whether it's the juvenile system, law enforcement system, things like that. I just would have to say, if there's something else in place, is there an alternative? I myself went through the juvenile system at a very young age, and it wasn't as bad as I see it, what it is now. But I don't think a system that exists now is needed. Do we reconform it because we're gonna have some kids that's out there that's cutting up and doing some things, and they might need to be removed from the community for a time until we can, determine how we're going to deal with them. But I think if we just abolish it altogether and just say, well, we're just not going to put anybody in juvenile hall, we could find ourselves in a place to where, if not juvenile hall, what is our response to when some of our young people get out of pocket?
I mean, and as someone who's actually been inside as a detainee and also inside as a mentor, I mean, what would you shift in that system? If you could, if you could change the system, what would you shift?
I would shift the fact of having more mentors inside, and again, working our way from the inside out, getting in there, planting the seeds, having interaction with these young people to where when they, did come out, that they would, have a connection with this mentor. And now they're calling mentors credible messengers who have that lived experience and can go in there and again, share their experiences and kind of promote a healthier alternative to the life that they're involved in. And these are people generally from the community, to where these young people are going to come right back to the community and have those same experiences. However, if we can connect them with some positive role models when they come home, when they get out, then they don't have to return back to, getting involved with the very same thing that sent them to juvenile hall.
Yeah. I had a conversation some years ago with an organizer with Big Brothers and Sisters who told me Black people do not volunteer as mentors, at least not with that organization.
Right, that's true. And unfortunately, when you don't have someone who can volunteer and donate their time to help correct the wrong or to mentor someone, they generally look towards their peer group, which might be a big homie or somebody that might direct them down a different path. And yes, we do need more mentors. We're at a deficit. And, we just need our people to, step up. They want to help the community. They have to sacrifice their time, whether it's going to those juvenile halls once a month or just spending some time to get engaged, get their phone numbers out, write somebody. I think there's something we can all do that would have an impact.
Talking with Taco, a.k.a. Reverend Ben Owens, continuing that conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
You are now in Big Tobacco's fantasy land. Welcome. It's a healthier world where they want you to believe that vaping makes quitting cigarettes a breeze. Never mind the evidence that vaping leads to using both. And if you're younger, even better, teens who vape are 3 times likelier to use cigarettes. In Big Tobacco's fantasy land, the deadliest industry is your friend.
Big Tobacco's idea of smoke-free is a dangerous fantasy for us all. See reality at undo.org.
We said 1,500 hours.
Dax's hangar flies high thanks to his military precision.
Rob, you copy?
He wants to land some aircraft mechanics, preferably with a military background.
Okay, I wasn't aware of a new timeline. Cancel. Stand by for new assignments.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do.
Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
This season, your coffee orders are getting warmer, and your outfits are getting cozier. The world keeps changing, and so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. You can get a COVID-19 shot at the same visit as a flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Talk to your healthcare provider to learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov. And don't forget to get extra cinnamon spice. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Extended Family Outreach Ministry presents Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. Morning worship, keynote address, and conference featuring women in creative arts ministry and leadership sharing our stories, His glory, giving all praise, honor, thanksgiving, and glory to God. Don't miss the afternoon stand-up and sing praises concert with the Katinas, gospel singer Babby Mason, Three Daughters, and Kevin Click. That's Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. For more information and tickets, go to PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com. Plus, for the next 48 hours, use promo code KBLA48 to get your tickets free. You do not want to miss this day of praise. That's PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com.
your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now, we're talking with Reverend Ben Owens, the man known as Taco, the founder of DETOURS Mentoring Group. And, you know, I've interviewed you many times, Taco, but I don't know that we've ever talked about that moment where you said, okay, I'm gonna switch my life around. And, you know, you said, oh, you were making choices that were not in the best interest of your community. And most of the people that I know that are intervention specialists or who have community organizations in the space similar to yours are, have been involved in the streets, been involved in the incarceration system on some level. And I always think, well, okay, or people get injured, something life-changing happens, and then they say, okay, then I'm going to work to clean up or uplift the people that are in the situation that I was in. You kind of wonder, well, okay, is that something you're thinking about over time and then something gets you there, or is it a sudden reversal, like one of those light bulb moments? How did that go for you? Where were you and where did you end up?
Mine is a little bit unique within myself. I joined a gang at a very young age, and I joined as a result of domestic violence in my home and me looking for outside power. And the gangs the Crips and Bloods were developing at that point. And so around 12 years old, I joined a gang. And being a part of that gang, you had protocols and expectations, which would kind of give me the certification of rites of passage. So as a young boy transitioning to a young man, I anticipated to go to juvenile hall. It was just something that you had to do, something that you was expected to do in being in a gang. And so I did. Went to juvenile hall, went to camp, went to county jail, went to prison, got shot. All of these things happened, but through anticipation. And it wasn't until I finally got shot, I was probably 23 years old. And I remember being in the hospital bed and considering that I was still alive, I said, I've done everything on my to-do list. I had a reputation, I did everything. And so that didn't stop me. I continued to stay in my stuff until I was about 27, and I went sober. And I went sober cold turkey. I just asked God one day, if you got anything better than this, and then give it to me. And from the moment that I became sober, that's when I began to think different, and my life began to change. And so it wasn't just instantly. My sobriety began instantly, but my decision and my path and my journey began to change at that point, to where I began to think different. I was pretty much done with doing all the bad stuff because I did it all. And it led me down a path to where I love my community just as much, but I just wanted to do something positive for them at that point. And that's the path that I've been on. I'm from my neighborhood. I love my neighborhood, but I don't want to bring harm or danger or jeopardize anybody's safety or freedom. So I bring the best resources that I can to my community now.
Mm. That's interesting that you say all of those changes, all of those hard times were expected. Getting shot, going to jail, going to juvenile hall, it was anticipated as part of the path that you were on. So it was the sobriety that made you go on this detour of mentoring. And what made you decide to go cold turkey sober?
Again, I just had felt I was at a point in my life I had completed my mission, and I wanted to feel and understand what my mission was. At this point, I was a father of 4 children, and I didn't want them to go down the path that I went down. And I knew and I felt in my heart that change had to happen. I believed that my path was chosen as a young boy, but even prior to that, I had a system against me before I even arrived. I was born in the 60s. My mother's Indian, my father's black, and during that time, it was illegal for interracial marriage. So even though my parents loved each other, it was illegal for them to be married.
Now, when you
And
say
so
Indian, do you mean indigenous or do you mean East Indian?
indigenous,
Okay,
Choctaw
gotcha.
Indian.
Oh, Choctaw.
So my
Got it.
mother is from Oklahoma, from the reservation. My father's from Alabama. And again, in the 60s, you couldn't, it was illegal for interracial marriage. And I was born a bastard. And even finding my identity as a young boy, light-skinned, you curly hair, and, you play with them, or you hang out with them, to the point to where, although my name is Taco, my birth name is Ben Owens the third, with the implication that there's a first and there's a second. But my biological father wasn't in my life, and I struggled with that. I struggled with identity. And, being angry as a young boy, again, took me down this path to where I looked for support from my peer groups or the people who had similarities to me. And that was happening a lot in my community, not necessarily that they were having identity crisis, but the feel the need of not having a father and being connected to folks who were just like you, kind of put us all in the same environment and justified what was right in our young minds.
Mm-hmm. Mackie Samuels is in the chat room on YouTube, and you can watch me on YouTube. Taco's on the phone. But he wants to know if you think that the thug life image of hip-hop factors into sort of the rise of youth violence, well, he says deviance. I would say violence, but yeah, that's the question. And I guess it's an endless debate, which came first, the record or the streets.
Yeah, well, I would say definitely it has an impact, and I believe theoretically the streets came first. I believe that there was an era where rappers emulated their experience from the streets, through music and artistry, things of that nature. But I think the roles are reversed today. I think that rappers have more influence now as to what our culture is, and whether they on stage and, drinking syrup or, saying things that could influence a young mind of a young child as to, what the culture is about. So, yes, definitely I do think that the roles have changed.
That's an interesting point, that the hip-hop may be influencing the streets more than the streets influencing hip-hop now. I wonder, because when we have this conversation, Mackie, it's always hip-hop. And I understand that's the thing that's generated by our community. But for me, the violence and glorification of what you're calling thug life or gun culture, sort of violence as a solution to everything, is not just found in hip-hop. I find it in our television shows, in our movies. I find it in our politicians, many of them, their solutions. I don't know. Do you think hip hop has more of an influence than the rest of our culture in this country?
I think for us, because you're right, there are all those other portals that where we learn violence from. But I think for us, it is a accepted platform of violence that we tend to normalize or accept or even glorify. and take delight in. So we pay for the very same music and lyrics that we despise, and we celebrate that. We put it, on videos, and we play it at funerals and hood days and all these different other things that we celebrate with it, our own demise, where folks are talking about destroying us, and we sing that anthem with them.
I certainly have seen it. I've also seen ladies in Bel Air, wealthy white ladies, listening to the same songs, and it doesn't make them suddenly go and, join a gang or shoot up a place. They just keep doing their Pilates.
Yeah, and that might be in your situation, but I think a lot of us, we don't see folks in Bel Air.
Right.
We see
it's not like I go there every day, but I'm just, the reason
Right.
that I'm using it as an example is because I feel like it's also the conditions. I don't think it's just the music. I think when a wealthy, resourced child, listens to the same song, it's going to impact them in a different way because they're not living in those conditions.
Yeah. Well, we do have instances where you have folks who come from affluent backgrounds want to live that life. We see it with celebrities and entertainers, and it's so commercialized, it's so hip, it's so trendy that folks, they want to be a part of it, and we see that internationally across the world. Everybody want to be connected to some type of, cultural experience that has been bad for us. It's kind of like the N word. People want to raise their hand and say, "I want to say it. I want to live it. I want to experience it." And, again, because perhaps maybe it's become so glamorized that folks don't understand that what's been our demise isn't something that they would want to experience. They might want to wear the T-shirt, but they don't want to live that experience.
Yeah, lip sync those lyrics. Okay, so we just have 30 seconds till news, traffic, and sports. If you want to talk with Reverend Owens, a.k.a. Taco, 800-920-1580 is the number to call. When we come forward, I do want to touch on a couple of things, not the least of which is the way that, your work is impacted by social media, the so-called, social media banging that goes on, the profiling, and the misrepresentation of what is actually going on. I'm Dominique DePrima, and this is KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden plans to host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a meeting at the White House before the end of this year. Biden and Netanyahu met on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly Wednesday. At the start of their meeting, Biden told Netanyahu he hoped they'd see each other in Washington by the end of the year. 9 Memphis, Tennessee deputies are being indicted in the death of a black man who was being held in custody. Last October, Gershon Freeman ran naked from his cell while suffering a psychotic episode. Video shows deputies punching, kicking, and pepper spraying him before kneeling on his back for several minutes. Officers dragged his limp body away, and Freeman was later declared dead from a heart attack he suffered while being restrained. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Start saving on the road with Valero's 100 Days of Summer. Get fuel-saving snacks, swag, and more every day all summer long. Only with Valero Pay Plus. Download the app and start saving right now. Additional terms and conditions apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Dodgers' 5-game winning streak came to an end last night. Detroit beat the Dodgers by 2. The Giants are in town. They begin a 4-game series with the Dodgers tonight. Important series for the Giants. They're 17.5 games behind the Dodgers, but still can make the playoffs. The Giants are battling for a wild card spot. First pitch tonight is 7:10. The Rams traded running back Cam Akers to the Minnesota Vikings. In return, the Rams get a 6th-round pick from the Vikings in 2026. The Rams have been trying to unload Akers for more than a year. If you need some football tonight, the NFL has a Thursday night game for you. The New York Giants at San Francisco. The 49ers are one of 8 undefeated teams in the NFL heading into Week 3. 5:15 p.m. kickoff. You can catch the game live on Prime Video. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
I'm MC Light for Hip Hop Heritage, celebrating 50 years of hip hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. Wow. Reflecting on my life in hip hop, first off, as one of the early female MCs, I knew I had to be twice as nice as the male rappers out. Flow, style, voice, conviction. Lyrically, I had to double down on everything I delivered if I was going to get my respect. And I'm from Brooklyn, so you best believe I was going to take it. Hip-hop is everything. It's not just music, it's culture, it's fashion. It's the way you move. It's swag. It's hip-hop heritage, brought to you by Cadillac.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Hi, this is LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to the 28th Annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival on September the 23rd from 11 to 7 p.m. For nearly 3 decades, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival has paid homage to the legendary Central Avenue and its influence on jazz history. Jazz, blues, and Latin jazz will be featured on 3 stages of music. Co-headlining are Hubert Laws with special guest Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. Parking is limited, so Metro and rideshare are recommended. Hubert Laws with special guests Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. For more information, visit CentralAveJazzFest.com. CentralAveJazzFest.com. See you on the 23rd.
I was crossing the street when I met the love of my life. I chased after her. Nothing would stand in my way. Not the dog walker, nor the hot dog vendor. Finally reaching her, I asked, "What do you call that amazing smell?"
It's Gain Flings.
Gain Flings. My love had a name, but more importantly, it had a scent.
Fall in love with Gain Flings. Seriously good scent. Gain Flings with 50% more freshness ingredients versus leading bargain detergent.
When my family does Walt Disney World Resort, we do it big.
Bippity boppity big, like Cinderella Castle.
Big, like those juicy turkey legs from Gaston's Tavern.
It doesn't get any bigger than the Tam Tam Drummers. Get it, Grandma?
Yeah, and big like Goofy's kicks. Yup.
It's your world, so do it big at Walt Disney World Resort.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Ben Owens, a.k.a. Taco. Remind us before we get too much deeper into the show how to follow you, how to support the work that you're doing, and check in on Detours.
All right. I sure will. You can reach me at on Instagram at Ben Taco Owens. You could reach me on phone or at my office site in Gardena at 310-768-8100. Or you can go to my website. It's I'llNeverGiveUp.com.
I'llNeverGiveUp.com. So Instagram banging and whatever misrepresentations. We used to talk about studio gangsters back in the day, people that would get on their recordings and represent themselves as somebody other than who they are. But it seems like it's a lot easier to do it now with the rise of socials. How does that change the equation in terms of mentoring, in terms of stopping violence, and really organizing communities.
Yeah, it's a extremely powerful tool that could be used in many different ways to help or destroy our communities or our cultures. I think through a series of how we monitor things, we meaning interventionists, that when we see certain things that post, we have to get in there and talk to folks and ask them to take it down, or that ain't cool, because what potentially happens is that becomes a platform where arguments happen, or a scoreboard to where folks are doing things and promoting their violence, and then determining who's winning at this point.
Right.
So we've seen rappers, they're in jail now, probably going to spend the rest of their lives there because they talked about something that they did, and or through social media, and law enforcement blatantly tells us and them that, yeah, we're going to use social media. What they say, anything you say can and will be used against you. That includes what you post and put on social media. So.
Right. I mean, you could also have
careful.
a guy on the other side of the country starting beef in South LA.
Yeah, you can. Unbeknownst to that, and so part of our push is when we see things on there and we can't really pin it where who it's coming from, we ask them to take it down. Meaning, the social media that owns that is Instagram or Facebook. We flag it, and I believe that there's some systems that perpetuate things like that. I've seen some videos that, and it's very disparaging to the community, and might have 13 million views. And I'm like, this is trash. I don't see somebody watching this 13 million times. Where do these views come from? Who's viewing them to keep it posted? Because it's trash. So yeah, it's a tool. But again, I'm just curious as to when we see a lot of the things that's being perpetuated or allowed to be viewed, why that's not being taken down. But if you make a statement about a particular culture, they'll cancel everything you got, every social media platform that you got, and take you down. But if it's something against us that we dislike, it gets to stay up there and it gets more views.
Yeah. But I mean, it's good to know that you're working with that, not just, throwing up your hands and going, well, that's not the streets, because it impacts, the communities. I'm thinking way back to when, I first came to LA in radio, and I used to get in trouble for putting intervention workers on the radio. They would say, why are you putting those criminals? Why are you putting these, gang members on the radio? And I feel like fast forward to now, many intervention workers actually are contracted by the city or the county. It's part of the system of trying to keep, peace and keep prosperity on the left coast, particularly Los Angeles. I think the way we do things has been copied all over the world, really, and certainly all over the United States, to try to bring the violence down and better serve communities. I know intervention workers did a lot of community outreach stuff during COVID when no one else was really doing it. Do you think now, looking back at that arc, that trajectory, that we're where we need to be with it? I mean, I know that Mayor Karen Bass gave the intervention workers a raise. I've always said, maybe you guys need a union, maybe you need, real benefits, because it's real hard work, and we're now relying on the network of intervention workers to help keep the city safe, even though y'all oftentimes don't get credit for that, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely we've come a long way from being those gangbangers that are, on the radio show, or, why they out there, why they have access to a platform. And the reality of it is that because they're peacemakers. And despite what people might think, they are or where they come from, a lot of times I use in that analogy of the Bible. You give me a specific prominent character out the Bible, and I'll show you, a criminal or a gangbanger or someone that was despised in the Bible and that was used, to continue to tell that story. But what the interventionist has done is we've professionalized this work. There's protocols it is. We don't just go grab people off the street and say, hey, man, you big so-and-so and you the big homie, so come on and do this work. No, we have to have ethics and integrity in doing this work. And so we do trainings. We train people and teach them, how to, stay out the way. And, if you're on the fence, then come back when you're ready to commit yourself fully to this work, because lives are in jeopardy. And so we don't just have a field of peacemakers, but we operate out of integrity and trust and respect. So we've come a long way. And for those who might think that there's nothing happening, or they're not doing anything, we've come a long way. And there's peacemakers who don't promote themselves, they're humble, but they're saving lives. They're saving the very lives of people whose children are going to school or, contemplating and getting joined in the gang. There's not as many gang members as there used to be, unbeknownst to people. There's probably more commercialized gang members, meaning that people are in a gang or think that they're in a gang because they get so many likes on the internet. But gang banging, it ain't what it used to be. Trust me.
Do you think that that there's enough young people coming in, into the intervention, trade? I don't know if I call it a trade world now, or is it, because I feel like at least at one time we were heavily relying on, our generation, really, right?
Yeah.
The peace treaty generation or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And for some folks, they might say, oh, they old and we respect them. But I think we've gotten to the point to where it's becoming contagious. And part of our mission was to make intervention or peace appealing, make it more sexier, to where we would have that level of influence, to where we would have the next generation say, hey, you know what, I want to do what you're doing. And part of that from within the gang culture was difficult, or is difficult, because you don't find many nice gang members. You don't find many folks who protocol of being in the gang is to be a peacemaker. And so as we begin to get out in the community and identify peacemakers as part of the community, and they're going to be working with, gang members, they're well respected, that has allowed us to be able to, again, attract the next generation to say, hey, I want to do intervention too.
Talking with Taco, a.k.a. Reverend Ben Owens. Continuing the conversation when we come forward, taking your phone calls, 800-920-1580. And Taco, I want to know, people want to say all the time, young people today are bad, they're worse than ever. They smash and grab, they're out of control, they have no respect. I wonder how you see it. You're working with them every day. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're now in Big Tobacco's fantasy land. Welcome. It's a healthier world where they want you to believe that vaping makes quitting cigarettes a breeze. Never mind the evidence that vaping leads to using both. And if you're younger, even better. Teens who vape are 3 times likelier to use cigarettes. In Big Tobacco's fantasy land, the deadliest industry is your friend.
Big Tobacco's idea of smoke-free is a dangerous fantasy for us all. See reality at undo.org.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
When you're young, Life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
The organization is Detours I'll Never Give Up. Is it .com or .org? I should know. I have it over here. .com. I'll never give up.com. And I asked you, our kids, our young people, and I would note that a lot of these, when we talk about homicides and stuff, even though they're still down relative to the 80s and 90s, many of them are not kids. Like a lot of them are 30, 40 somethings and up, right?
Yeah.
But what about the young people, since we like to stereotype them and say, kids today are worse than ever? That's what I hear so much.
Yeah. So just in case there is a young person, a teenager that's up right about now, listen to this. my disclaimer is this. We used to be you. We used to be the ones that said they're horrible, they're bad, or whatever. Ironically, we generally, you don't hear other teenagers say that about other teenagers, which is funny. But I don't necessarily see it as bad as what it used to be. But I think a lot of the motives behind crime that I see now are different. Again, in the gang culture, we had protocols. You had to go out. You had to go do something. You had to, commit crimes. You had to go to jail. You had to make that happen. What I see now is a lot of our young people that are doing things. There's a motive behind it. My own personal opinion for a lot of it is addiction. I see a lot of people with the smash and grab, and you wonder, okay, they go in there, they take a $40 purse, which probably going to sell for $10 or $15 on the street market. But what are they going to do with that? It's not like they're going to go pay a bill. They're going to, they're probably going to go buy some weed, if that. More than likely, it's probably at the top of their list. But I think that some of the things that are being done are accepted, but there are interventions that are out there telling folks, hey, man, that ain't cool what you're doing, especially when it happens in our community. You run the stores off, and whether it's Nike or whatever it might be, that's not cool. That's not something that you should be doing. But also, I think the other side of that is, what is the recourse? What is the recourse for crime in our communities? And how do we deal with that? Because we don't have a patrol car, we don't have a prison to lock nobody up in, and we can't just mentor our way out of this when folks do so. We can't just tell them that ain't cool. Some folks have to have an experience that you can't just criminalize us and victimize us in our community, and there's folks down the street sitting in the patrol car watching it happen, and there's no recourse for that. There's no consequences. That'll lead to people taking laws into their own hands. So now the person that's, stealing a hubcap off a car, and instead of, getting approached or getting dealt with, they end up dead. Somebody shoots them because folks take the law into their own hands. So we have to have a justice system in place, one that works collectively for all of us, and we have to be a part of that decision-making on what works for us and what doesn't.
All right, let's go to JW calling us from Los Angeles. Hi, JW. You're on with Taco.
Hey, Dominique, how you doing? I'll try to be brief as possible because I know you're a retiring friend. I have a comment but anyway, here's my point. I've been mentoring boys from 12 to 18, correcting to 16, for 18 years. And my point is this. What I have observed, most of these young men, or young ladies as well, in terms of you going through puberty, they're like, immature, and they don't use conscious, logical thoughts. Back to another point, I would also like to say that in terms of the program you have, I wish we can have more exposure, because that's the key factor right there. Dr. Dominique made her comment about getting bigger on the show and got criticism back in the day when it wasn't popular, but now it is. Exposure is the key for everything for us, as well as creating our own narrative.
Yeah, I want to get your comments on that and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Dominique DePrima here. Having a good credit score is one critical step to obtain a loan to buy a home. But did you know that your credit score is just one factor in getting a mortgage loan? Think about this. Lenders also consider your income, your employment history, current monthly debts, the size of the loan, and the amount of your down payment. Whatever your financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives support you in reaching them. Access your personal financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried new Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Yeah, I mean, teenagers are wired differently. They're physiologically different. That immaturity is not stupidity. It's part of the becoming an adult. But JW addressed that and some other things. And Taco, a.k.a. Reverend Owens, I'd love to get your response.
Yeah, I agree. They're wired different. They're exposed to different things. But I think the irony of that is that parents often get the chance to determine what they're exposed to. And, we talked about social media and, how things are perpetrated through there and how things eventually happen. So they used to have this thing a long, long time ago that I heard about called MySpace. And my daughters, they had this thing called MySpace. And I remember one time my oldest daughter, she was on MySpace, and I said, let me see that. What you doing on here? And she said, Dad, it's my space. This is my space. I said, it's your space, but it's my computer. And I pay for the internet and everything. So we have to have a responsibility as parents to what information gets poured into our children's minds, what they're listening to, what they're watching, who they engage with. And I think, we probably gotten away from that as parenting. We used to, your parents would want to see who you're outside playing with and introduce you, and mama would say, I don't want you hanging around that boy because just something ain't right. That intuition kicked in. But in the digital era, it's a little bit more complicated because you don't know who your child is talking to at 3 o'clock in the morning and getting that influence from. So we have to be mindful of who we are allowing our children to engage and what we're allowing to pour into their minds.
Yeah. Well, we've got a minute and a half left. I could ask you a million questions about that. But do you guys do life skills? I mean, part of being able to resist that is having a certain level of consciousness and tools in your tool belt.
Yes, absolutely. And we have plenty of programs, life skills, restorative justice, community service. But the real live programming happens in the streets. It happens talking to those young people on their way to school who might feel intimidated about going to school because somebody going to hit them up or they didn't get no new school clothes. So the program is built in within ourselves, within our communities, and us, taking those actions to engage the folks in a community and just sharing with them, what their potential is and what resources are available to them.
Yeah. Well, you've got a minute here, Taco. What do you want to leave us with?
I just, again, want to finish how I started. First things first, thank you for your many, many years of opening up a platform to get the word out there, that there are folks who are fighting for our people, and they don't always look like government officials. But we're homegrown, and we appreciate you, and we love you, and we just wish there were more people that could replicate and do what you do. We know they can't do what you do. You leave some big shoes to fill wherever you go. But we just would hope and pray that people would take into account the impact that you're having on our people and our community.
Thank you, Taco. That's very kind of you. I'llNeverGiveUp.com. What a great way to start your day. I'llNeverGiveUp.com. It's a great time for you to call me right now, 800-920-1580. In fact, it's the perfect time. KBLA, Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest.